cut the fabric according to how much fabric I had. But if I get a ruler, you can see that it measures about 14 inches across and roughly 18 inches long. So then because it's a drawstring bag, you want to use a tie. Double up your fabric so that you've got double length plus a little bit to tie. So if I lift this up, the two pieces of fabric stay well and truly together. Grab the machine, and I'm going to set the machine on a straight stitch. I'm going for an inside stitch length, so I'm going for 2.5 on the stitch length, and I'm going to change the stitch selector to a straight stitch. Now at this point, if you want to get yourself a magnetic seam guide to help you follow a straight line, do that, and it clicks firmly in place on your machine. Now I'm going to be using the edge of the foot, which gives me about 1 centimetre seam allowance. For the drawstring, I'm going to sew from the top 1.5 inches, so up to there, and then I'm going to leave a full inch space and then continue to sew all the way around. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And the way I'm going to do that, make sure I get the right markings. So I'm going to flip this over to that side and make sure I'm marking at the same points there. So make sure your threads are at the back. Put the presser foot down. And make sure that your fabric is underneath the hole at the very least. I've gone a bit further on, like that, and just press the pedal down. Lock those, I'm going to lock those stitches, go back, and then all the way up to the line. And when I can see that black line in the hole, I'm going to stop. See the black line there, so I'm going to press reverse, go back a few stitches, and then back to the line again. I'm going to lift the needle right out, make sure the thread take up lever, so make sure this hook's right at the top, and then lift up the press foot and just move until I can see the black line in the hole again. Make sure the fabric's on the edge, and then start sewing again. Now just watch out for that line. Where you can see that black mark in the needle hole, stop again. And then just reverse back. Lift up your needle until the hook's right out. Lift up the presser foot and start again at the next mark. You need to lock those stitches. Lock the stitches at the end again. It's really important to lock these stitches because you don't want it all to come undone. And I can cut that thread away. Now if you're a beginner, I've left the frayed edge on the bag as it is, but if you want to do a little bit of a tidy up job on the opening, what you can do is open the bag seam like that and just press this seam down like that. Keep it open. Take it to the iron if you'd like to, so that it stays. So that's pressed down. So now what I can do is just sew a box around the entrance hole so that these seam allowances won't get in the way when I thread the tie through. And then just lock those stitches like that. And there you go. So you can see all that held securely, so that now when this is all closed up, these seam allowances won't get in the way. And it'll be so easy to thread through, and it's secure and it's tidy. I'm going to set that to the side. I'm going to do the same thing with the lining. Just put lots of pins in, hold it all together. We don't actually need drawstring holes this time because they're only on the outside fabric, but we do need a turning hole, and the turning hole I'm going to put on the side. If I put it on the bottom, it sort of makes the bottom a little bit weak, so I like to place my turning holes on the side, so it could be any which side you want to. And I'm going to make sure it's plenty big enough, so I'm going to make it 5 inches long, or you know, about 10 to 15 centimeters long. Make sure your hook's at the top. Now on these machines, these are front loaders. You can't sew off the fabric or your threads get tangled. So try not to sew off the fabric. Okay, so we need to remove. I'm going to place the outside bag inside, inside the lining, but I'm going to put good sides together. So I need to turn this bag out. Make sure you get nice neat corners, so you can fold your corners over, pinch and then turn, and you get a nice crisp corner. So do that again. So fold, so you can just see the stitching, and fold again, and then pinch that and push it through, and you get a nice crisp corner. So when you've done, you do that. What you can do now is place this bag into the line, and there's your turning hole there. What I'm going to do is sew the top, so match the seams at the sides there, like that. I'm just going to. Right, so what you can do here is take the accessories box off, and if you remove that accessories box, you can see you've got some space underneath your machine, and what that allows you to do is place your bag like that, so it moves a lot more freely around the machine as you sew. Over the stitches that you started with and lock all the stitches in place. Bring your hook to the top and release, and just pull everything through. And you end up with your bag like that. So this is a lining, it's going to get pushed into there. But what we want to do before we push the lining back in is sew your turning hole down. Now you can sew that down on the machine, or you can sew it on by hand, nicely pressed down. And then I'm just going to sew between those two marks that I can still see. so that's your bag essentially done. So what we're going to do is just push the lining inside the main bag. And then just if you put your hands in, you can match the lining up. So what I'm going to do now is take this to the iron and actually press this seam down. Right, so that's nicely pressed. Here's the opening, and there are my holes for the channel, for the drawstring channel. So what I need to do is I need to sew all the way around. Now there are two things you could do here. You could grab a pencil and a ruler and draw the lines that you need to do. You need to sew. So I can see my markings from before, so I can just sew on the outside of those markings. Like that. I can do that, or the other thing I can do is just make sure I use my seam guide, or I can use my quilting ruler. I'm going to adjust the quilting bar, put the press foot down, and then lock your stitches. Those stitches again, and we'll do the same now. I'm just going to move the bar over, lift up the press foot, and shift the thread over so that I'm on the next line. So the quilting bar needs to just be shifted over like that. We're going to lock the stitches again so that the casing will have a nice strong top and bottom. And lift up that hook to the top. There we go. And that's the bag made, so we just need to place our, just sew along this fabric and then turn. Alright, so I've got a nice big safety pin. Just going to place that in to one end of the tie. What I'm going to do, I've placed it in the side where we've got the raw edges rather than the neater side. And I'm just going to feed that through the hole, the casing, all the way through. And it comes out the other end, but I'm going to carry on actually all the way back to the hole that I started in. And then you can just open that up. There we go. And then take that to the machine and just sew a nice neat finish on there. There we go. A knot in that. Make sure it's nice and fully opened before you tie your knot, and then just make it nice and tight. And there we go. So that's one side done. Yes. Keep going. Come out of that first hole that you started off. Make sure you fully stretch the bag out. And I'm going to put this one. again, just make sure you stretch the whole bag out before